Okay, so next we're going to start building queries for our database. There are different queries that we need to produce. We need to design a single query without criteria, a single query with criteria. A single query means the data comes from just one table. A multi-table query, so we're taking data from two or more tables, and a parameter query. Now that's a query where we type something in like a search criteria, and the results depend on what we've typed in. So we'll work through these now one by one, and I'll do some examples of creating these different queries. You do need to add at least 6 queries to your database. So one of these each, there's 4, and then you can add a couple of additional queries. Any will do for the extra 2, any 2 of your choosing. So let's have a look in our database and see which queries we can start to create. Now for our single query without criteria, probably one of the easiest ones to do is just a list of employees. So we'll open up the employees table, we'll go to create, and we'll choose query wizard. Okay, we want to choose the simple query wizard, click on OK, and let's just make sure that we've got the right table. There's a drop down here of all the different database tables. We need to be on table employees, and we can now choose the information we want for our query. So let's say we want the employee's title, their first name and their surname, and we want their mobile number, their email address, their job title, and the date they were employed. So I've added all those to the selected fields. Click on next. We'll have the details, so show field of every record. Click on next. Okay, the query will be called employees query, but we'll change the TBL because that indicates it's a table to QRY, the abbreviation for query. So query employees query. We're just dropping query off there, we don't need it twice. So queries employees, and then click on finish. Okay, and there's our query. So we can see the title, we can see the first name, surname, mobile number, email address, job title, and the date employed, and all that information has come from just one table. So that's a single query with no criteria. So you can go ahead now and produce a query like that for your database. Okay, so the next query we'll create is the single query with criteria. So back in our database, I think for this one I'm going to do a equals to a certain stock level, so that we can run a query on how many items are at a certain stock level so they could be reordered. So opening the stock table, I'm going to just change the date here. We'll say we've got 50 England tops in and 25 Wales tops in, and the reorder level is 25 items of stock, so we're always holding 25 of each individual item within stock. So we need to do a query now to look up any items which have a quantity of 25 items. So we'll go to create, we'll go to query wizard, we'll choose simple query wizard, click on OK. We'll choose table stock, and we'll have the stock category, we'll have the product name, we'll have the size and the colour, and the quantity in stock, along with the name of the supplier so we know who to contact to order more. If we click on next, that takes us through to here, so click on next again, and we'll call this one query, so QRY stock, we'll call that reorder, and finish that one. Now that's created the query for us, but we haven't set any criteria yet. So we're going to go into design view. Okay, now that we're in design view, we're looking for the quantity in stock. Now here's the criteria row. Okay, and in here I could put equals, let's say 25. That will then give me all the items in stock that have a quantity level of 25. Realistically, I want to make that less than or equal to 25, because if we've gone below 25, it wouldn't be picked up in the query. So I'm going to use the less than symbol plus equals to 25, and that would bring up all items which have a stock level of 25 or under. So I'm going to choose run. There we are, and we can see I've got my query here, and the quantity in stock is 25 for the Wales rugby home top. There's another way I could do that. If I go back to design view, I could simply just say less than 26, for example, because that would be 25 and under. So if I run my query again, we can see that works. Okay, and just to put some different in there, we could have over 40, so that I should see the England top. And there it is, the England rugby top. Okay, but I'm going to go back and change that to less than or equals to 25. And just run that one to make sure it's worked. Yes, it has. So you can now create a query with some criteria, less than, equal to a certain number, or another query that you think suitable for your database. A quick afterthought with this one, it would actually be quite easy to make this into a multiple table query as well, because we've got the supplier ID. So we're going to end up with a list of items that we need to order. We know who to order them from, but it'd be really useful if we had their telephone number here as well. And we can get that from the suppliers table. So if we go back to the query design view, I'm going to choose show table, and I'm looking for suppliers. I'm going to add that as a table, and we'll close that down out the way. And we can, once you start adding lots of tables, it's easier just to make them a little bit bigger so you can see what you've got. Okay, so I've got my suppliers table, and I'm going to want their telephone number. So in the table row, I'm going to choose the suppliers, and I'm going to choose telephone number. Okay, now when I run the query this time, we'll see the phone number for Shore Sports. So that's a more useful query now, because the person who's ordering stock hasn't got to then go and find a phone number. They can run the stock query, and they've got a list of telephone numbers and suppliers they need to contact. So you could do that query as a single table query with criteria, but you could also quite easily make it into a multi-table query as well. Okay, so next we're going to create a multiple table query. Now we have really just covered that just by bringing one piece of data from another table in our single query with criteria, but we'll do it again, the multiple table query. So back to our database. I think for this one, a good table to work with would be the sales table. Okay, so if we have a look at this one, this is where we're recording the date of sale, time of sale, the customer ID, the stock ID, the employee ID, and the quantity sold. But we can query this information along with additional information about the customer, additional information about the employee, to bring information in from different tables. So first of all, I'm going to create my query from the sales table. So create query wizard. We'll go with a simple query wizard. Okay, and just check we've got the sales table, and we'll have all this data. Okay, so we'll nudge that over, click on next, and we're going to call this one query, so QRY, query sales. And let's click on finish. There we are. So we've got basically the same view as we had in the table, okay, with date of sale, time of sale, customer ID, and so on. So we're now going to go into design view, okay, and let's think about the additional information that we want to bring into this query. We can have a quick look at it again in data view to help us with that. So the customer ID, well, really we want the customer surname as well, so we know who they are. And we'd want the employee surname as well. So those are two pieces of data that we can get. So if we go back to our design view, let's just make that a little bit bigger and nudge this down here. Okay, so we're going first of all for our customer's surname. So we need to add a table, so show table, and we want customers, and we also want employees as well. Okay, so there's those two tables. Finish with that one. Okay, let's just make these a little bit bigger so we can see them. Okay, so first of all, we've already got the customer ID, which has come through as the customer's first name. So we'll choose the customers table, and we'll also have the customer's surname, and we'll do exactly the same with the employees. So we'll choose the employees table, and we'll have the employee's surname as well. There we are. So when we run the query, I've now added the customer's surname, and I've also added the employee's surname as well. So we just pull that along there a little bit as well. Now the way the information is presented in the query isn't brilliant because we've got the customer's surname over here and the customer's first name over here, and the same with the employee. So we just need to reorder the information in the query. So if we change the query to design view, okay, I'm going to choose the customer's surname field, okay, just by clicking on the little grey bar at the top. And I'm going to hold my left mouse button down. You can see I've got this little black bar now to the left, and I'm going to just pull it over so it sits to the left hand side or to the right hand side of customer ID. I'm going to do the same with the employee surname, highlight the entire row, pick it up, and we'll just put that next to the employee ID. There we are. Okay, so when I run the query this time, we can see, yeah, I've got Wayne Barker and Mark Smith. Okay, so that's a better order. Now we can also add some sorting to this query as well. I've only got one record here to work with, but if we go back to design view, under sales we can do a sort. So for example, we could have a sort to see who has sold the most or the least of a product, all products, or certain products. So if I run this one, the table won't change, okay, but had we had different orders in there, it would have put them in ascending order. So you can do some variations of that query. You could see who has sold the most of a certain product. You could have a little scenario where you're having a promotion, for example, on the Wales rugby shirts. A little incentive is the person who sells the most Wales rugby shirts gets a Wales rugby shirt. So at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, you could run this query to see which member of staff has sold the most. Okay, so again, just to recap that one, if we go back into design view, then you would put the sort to ascending. Okay, so go ahead now and you can create a multiple table query, and you could add some sorting to that as well if you wanted to. Finally, we're going to do the parameter query. Okay, that's the last of the four that you need to create. To do that, I think we'll do a simple query on employees. This would be a good example. If we look at my database, I've just got the 2 employees, and we'll say we're going to create a query to find out their contact details. So it would be easy enough just to put somebody's name into the database and bring back their mobile number and their email address, for example. So we'll open the table of employees, we'll go to create and query wizard. Okay, so simple query wizard, we're looking for table employees. Yeah, we'll just take their first name, their surname, and their mobile number and the employee's email address, and we'll click on next. Okay, we'll call this query staff or query employees. That's better. And finish. Okay, I've already done that, have I? Inquiries, employees, yes I have. So we'll call that employees details. And click on finish. Okay, that creates the query for us and it shows us all the data in the query. Now if I had 50 employees, I wouldn't want to be searching through a list of surnames to find a mobile number or an email address to contact somebody. So we'll change that to design view. Okay. Now, I think it would be best to search for the employees by their surname. So in the criteria of surname, I'm going to start with open brackets, and I'm going to put enter employee surname. And I'm going to finish with the close bracket. So when I run the query, okay, enter employee surname, I had house as 1. Click on OK, and it brings back that record. Okay. So if I quickly just save and close that query. Okay, if I go back to my employees, I've also got a Smith. So if I run the employee details query again, okay, let's type in Smith, and I should just have this record returned. There it is. So that's a parameter query. Okay, so you can now go ahead and create a parameter query for your database. Remember to use the criteria row, okay, or criteria column, and start with a square bracket, enter the text that you want to appear, and then end with a square bracket as well. So go ahead now and create your parameter query. Just a quick reminder that you must create the single query without criteria, single query with criteria, the multiple table query, A parameter query, you must have one of each of those, and in total you need 6 queries in your database.